Okay, we'll just give it 1 or 2 more minutes and then we can start. Okay, I think we're good to get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Sadia. I volunteer here at Tech for Palestine on the community team. I'm speaking to you today from Dallas, Texas. Thank you all so much for being here. If you've joined us before, welcome back. If this is your first time here, allow me to introduce Tech for Palestine and what we're doing here today. So Tech for Palestine is primarily a project incubator where we support projects to scale that either directly or indirectly support the Palestinian cause. And part of what we also do is creating communities of impact. And part of hosting a webinar like this is supporting these communities by bringing to your guys' attention impactful businesses, innovation, and the people behind it. So our community is also made up of a lot of dedicated volunteers and people like you who show up to support our initiatives online and in person. Before we dive into our conversation, I just want to go over a few quick housekeeping rules. I just want to let you all know the webinar is being streamed and recorded, so for your information. And we have the chat available for any comments or questions you guys have, and we'll do our best to get to them to the end. And then we also want to please ask that everyone make sure that you remain muted at all times. I think you do have the ability to have your camera on, but you don't have to. We just ask that you remain muted to make this a seamless experience for everyone. As we begin today's conversation with Hani and Said, who we'll be hearing from just in a second, I'd like for us to consider and understand that we live in a world where artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly central to our lives. It's worth noting that in an industry where Google processes 40,000 searches per second and Meta collects 32 out of 35 types of personal data, we're seeing technology companies not only just collect information about us, but actively also enable systems of oppression. In an investigative report that was published earlier this year by Francisca Albanese, who is a special reporter from the United Nations, she is in charge of the human rights situation in Palestine. Her report outlined the key role the technology sector plays in sustaining these systems of oppression. And the report found that tech companies are actively aiding and abetting genocidal practices through military technology supply and cloud infrastructure that powers AI targeting systems. So you might have heard about Google's Project Nimbus, or more recently, I'm going to cite the AI tool Lavender that was used to create kill lists that at one time listed 36,000 Palestinian people as targets with little to no human oversight. So this is why ethical alternatives like Thaura AI aren't just important, they're essential for our digital future. There's a growing awareness about how our data is used by technology platforms, and today we'll explore a different approach to building AI. It's why we're so excited to introduce Thaura AI as an innovative technology that offers an alternative vision for how AI can serve people's needs while respecting privacy and ethical principles. As Syrian engineers who have experienced displacement firsthand, Hani and Said bring a unique perspective to building technology. Thaura AI was created in June of 2025 and was recently launched as a Tech for Palestine incubator project. In today's conversation, we want to understand how Thaura AI is building ethical AI from the ground up, what inspired this mission, and why supporting alternatives that are technologically proficient, better for our environment, and actually user-friendly isn't just important, it's essential for our digital future. So without further ado, let's get started and hear from the founders themselves about what makes their approach fundamentally different. So you guys can go ahead and unmute Said and Hani, and we'll get started here. So the first question I wanted to ask you was about the name Thawra, and it's an Arabic word meaning revolution. And so I wanted to know how you both came up with this name, and is there a story behind it? It's a strong name. So can you guys give us a little background on how this came?
Firstly, thank you so much for the intro and for having us. And thank you everyone who's currently watching for taking the time and honestly showing support for this mission. It's not just about ethical AI, it's about ethical technology. And we're all here together because we're humans and we're striving for a better future. And to answer your question, well, Thawra, like you said, means revolution in Arabic. And this is a word we know pretty well from the Syrian revolution we just had in Syria. And it means a lot to us. It was something that gave us the call to start an initiative, to do something with the opportunities that we've been given, to do a Thawra. And honestly, when you look at the tech industry, you quickly realize that it also needs a Thawra. It also needs a revolution, because we're all supporting one system that keeps pretending that they work for us, even though they work really against us. And slowly and steady, like Tech for Palestine has come to grow, there are many disruptors like Thawra, and for us it really symbolizes this revolution mentality. And even when you look at our logo, it's not really that much connected to Thawra, but more about decolonizing also. It's a camel riding coder. This is deliberately made to flip the script on the stereotypes that keep reducing Arabs and non-Western technology to deserts and camels instead of keyboards and algorithms, even though algorithm is named after an Arab dude who invented algorithms. So it's really about changing the narrative and disrupting was the status quo.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, and it makes sense because you mentioned you had your own experience being Syrian. You're also living in Germany for a number of years now, so you're also German. So you have this dual perspective. Can you explain a little bit more how this idea of revolution is influencing the way Thawra is being built? How does this kind of relate to your identity and your experience living in Syria and then coming to Germany and having to kind of leave your country and now assimilating as Germans? And how has both of those things, both of those identities influenced the way Thawra is being built now? What kind of principles would you say are?
Well, we were both born in Syria and we came to Germany when we were kids, shortly before the war happened. So we're not really refugees in that sense. We just migrated away because we knew something's about to happen.
Yeah.
And when we came to Germany,
sorry to interrupt you. What year would that be? Is that like?
Yeah, 2010.
2010.
Yeah. The war started 2011. We came 2010.
Okay.
And when we came, we didn't just feel this sense of appreciation, but also a sense of responsibility, because now we're seeing all these opportunities we're having. We're building futures while our family and people are being killed. And it's something that we took our whole life. When we grew here, went to school, started our careers, that we had to give something back. And once we built our careers, because we were just working, we just wanted to be successful in something. And alhamdulillah, we got successful in the tech industry. And being in the tech industry, we just grew uncomfortable with the fact that we're not doing what we initially wanted to do. We were contradicting our values. We wanted to support our people, yet we were working for companies that were harming our homelands. And especially that was around 2024, where the genocide just rolled out. in Palestine, and also where the Syrian revolution happened. And accumulating all these just came to the point where we figured, okay, we got to do something ourselves. We cannot, I mean, everyone can say this, but especially us, considering all our past and that we don't have really any responsibility. Like, we're very young, we don't have no wife, no kids, no family. We just have a cat. That's our only responsibility whatsoever. And we got to do something with these opportunities. So yeah, this was basically the reason for us to quit our tech jobs and look into something to improve the world. And this is where we looked at the tech industry and saw how dark it is, and that you got to do something else. You cannot just keep working this one system that's that, like I've mentioned, pretends to work for us even though they work against us. And we looked into what we can do. We saw there are alternatives for WhatsApp, there's Signal, there's an alternative for Google, which is the Brave browser. But ChatGPT, like AI in general, a system that is so important and everyone is currently building on right now, and it's so data consuming, there was no alternative, except if you were technical. Then you could do your own thing with open source LLMs and build a chat interface. But like someone like my auntie, for example, she can do this. And I'm looking how she gives all her everything to ChatGPT. She talks to ChatGPT more than me, than all of our family. And it's really painful to watch. So all these really initiated for us to build something simple, a chat interface, which we also gave to our auntie. And she was pretty cool with it. But with time, she said, okay, I don't really want to type. Sometimes I just want to use the voice mode. Then we've built voice mode. And then she wanted to upload images. So we extended all these features, which essentially led to us having this alternative tool, which is now Thaura.
I just want to add one thing. So first of all, shout out to my auntie. I saw she in the chat. And another thing is, generally, I think it's also important. So first of all, hi, I haven't said anything yet. So it's very nice to have you all. And just to add a little bit also to what Hani said, it's absolutely possible to self-host your own LLM, which is basically AI that is being used right now. And not just that, we also encourage everybody to do so. The only reason we did it is, like Hani said, we wanted to give the regular people that do not have a technical background an opportunity to basically use AI with a clear conscience. And Hani mentioned like a couple of alternatives like Signal and maybe DuckDuckGo or Brave. But basically, we wanted to create an alternative ecosystem that is also not primarily based in the US, where the Middle East or maybe also Europe, if you could also count this, basically have an opportunity to strive. And therefore, Thaura came in place.
Shout out to your auntie. I think if an auntie can use it, anyone can use it. So they're the best.
For sure.
Yeah, she just sent a heart in the chat.
Yeah, I just saw. Hi. Welcome. Happy you're joining us. So thank you for explaining that. That makes a lot of sense. You guys said some pretty important things, and I want to expand on the technical aspect of it. But before we do that, I also wanted to just understand your a little bit more about like your own personal journey to starting it, because I mean, like there's a lot of people who have tech backgrounds, but to create an AI and to do it at this level that you are, I think requires a little bit more than just a technical skill. So what would you say is kind of, is there anything else that you guys have done that has enabled you to build this? Is it technical skills? Is it experience? Like what about it differentiates someone who's creating an AI versus just having like
Yeah, so basically we played basically the cards that we are dealt. So when Hani and I quit our jobs, we were two guys. This is, I think, the first identification that we have. Okay, we are two people, and we identified that having a product itself is not everything. You also need the marketing. You need to spread awareness, and you need to also understand the user experience and how people understand you and your company and the product. And I personally say this is the majority of how a company is built. But for simplicity sake, let's say it's 50% development, 50% marketing slash everything else, marketing slash everything else. So when we basically quit our job, we split our roles. So since I was the more senior engineer, we decided that I go ahead and focus on development. and Hani focuses on literally everything else. And it is by no means an easy task. Like looking even back right now for the past 1 month, it's definitely Hani has been carrying the company. So when we made the split, we basically had to ask ourselves, okay, what is how would an MVP look like? What is basically the minimal viable product so people can use AI in an effective way?
Yeah.
And we were looking for open source alternatives. And the reason why we did this is because we don't have the financial resources, obviously, to train our own model. And thank God there are a lot of open source alternatives. I think the normal consumer probably has heard of DeepSeek, which has really brought waves in the whole tech industry. But DeepSeek is not the only open source product. So also definition of open source, meaning that the source code, also the weights, meaning all of the training data and everything else, is released for free to the public, so everybody can use it.
Okay.
DeepSeek is, though, a huge model. So they say it's about 670 billion parameters. Parameters, you can think about them like in your brain, those neurons, right? Like we have trillions of neurons, way more than an LLM has. ChatGPT has around 3 to 5 trillion parameters. If you look at DeepSeek, they have around 670 billion parameters, which is also huge. It's by no means something we can run with our budget, since you need to have huge compute. But thank goodness there is a company called ZAI. It's a Chinese company. I know nothing about their ethics, but I know that they're Chinese and they have brought a open source model called GLM 4.5 Air, which is they say 100 billion parameter model, 12 billion active parameters. It's a mixture of expert architecture, meaning it's basically split in categories before it responds. You ask basically an expert, okay, is this a writing question? Is this a storytelling question? Is this a mathematical sort of question? Like comparing it to ChatGPT, which is a dense model, because their goal is AGI. Their goal is to produce to you the best possible output that ever existed. But in our case, this is not our goal. We want to cover 95% of all majority use cases for AI usage and allow people to use ethical AI with a clearer conscience. And also, by any means, like saying 95%, only covering 95% is not
a small number.
It's not a small number. I mean, I use Thaura in the sense of GLM 4.5 Air every day for development, and it has enabled me to build on my own, since I'm the only developer here, built this huge platform in around 6 months. So I think a lot of people can profit from it, and we have a lot of people using it for development. So I think if I can build a Thaura with such a huge model, a lot of majority use cases will be covered. And so this is, I think, the first thing we identified. We need a model that we can rely on. And since this is a small model and an effective model, we have decided to run by this. Going there,
Wait, can I ask one thing? So this is the major differentiation here is that bigger companies like that are creating ChatGPT, for example, versus something like Thaura, it's not proprietary, versus something on ChatGPT, they're building on a proprietary system. Is that the difference here? And like, well, you guys open source, you guys are building on an open source model.
This is one of the differences. So we decided to go with the GLM 4.5 Air, obviously because it's not proprietary. We want to be able to control the source code and not have ChatGPT control the source code. Because if we would use ChatGPT, I don't think there would be a lot of different, like why would people use Thaura and not ChatGPT itself? I mean, at the end of the day, we'll go down to ChatGPT, right? So one of the reasons is that it's an open source model. Another reason is that it's a small model. And being a small model means it enables us to run it ourselves. Plus, it's also incredibly sustainable. I mean, you have to compare here basically 3 to 5 trillion parameters with 12 billion parameters. Or even for the nitpicky people out there, since it's 100 billion total parameters, 100 billion total parameters. So it's incredibly more efficient. We calculated that it's around 93% more efficient. Even you can see when chatting with Thaura, at the end of the response, at the bottom left, you always see how much more efficient it is per request. Since in the chat, the more you chat, the more basically is being sent to the AI, right? And Yeah, I think this is the foundation that we decided to go with.
Yeah.
Also understanding the things that we need. We need a mobile app. We need a desktop app. We need API access for people that want to use it.
Yeah, but you have to start
Exactly.
somewhere. So you have to start. Sorry, I was saying we have to start somewhere, and so you established a foundation, and you identified the places where you wanted to differentiate yourself. And so you've explained that really well in terms of like how the idea came about and how the foundation started and how you started to build. And then you just mentioned also the environmental impact that you were taking into consideration and how the parameters and all of that makes it different, and you're obviously more efficient, and then you're showing at the end of each conversation, which I've also noticed, which I thought was really cool. It basically shows the impact of the conversation that we're having, or how much it's more effective, I guess, because it shows how many I think it shows like a negative number or something saved, right? So can you explain a little bit about how that was integrated into the platform, like how that came to be? Because it's a major differentiation that we don't really see other chat bots doing.
Yeah, so basically, there are a lot of reasons why Thaura is more sustainable.
Yeah.
The main reason is obviously because it's much, much smaller. Again, you're comparing 12 billion active parameters to 3 to 5 trillion parameters. There's also something called VLLM, which is a type of architecture that we run in our servers, which enable us to be 60% more efficient. It's just a specific it's just a type of way to run LLMs more efficiently, and ChatGPT doesn't use them. Since again, their goal is not efficiency, their goal is to get the max quality output, which is understandable in their task of achieving AGI, which for people that don't know it, it's artificial general intelligence. Basically, they want to create this transformer type intelligence that basically can solve any world problem in the world. And so it came to be. But primarily, the reason why we are more efficient is because it's just a much smaller model.
Okay, that makes sense. And then you also have identified that you guys are not collecting user data at all, which is like obviously a huge conversation. But can you tell us a little bit about how this is possible and why it's so different than what other companies are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So ChatGPT, Anthropic, DeepSeek, primarily they collect data to make the AI better, right? They increase the data sets, clean it up, choose the most quality based data sets that they have, and train the model based on this. They also do something called reinforcement learning, but this is also just one part of the training process. So they profit heavily from having a lot of data since their model gets bigger. Better. Also, taking into account if you're in big tech and you're an AI company, you don't just collect data to train your models. If you're involved in big tech, you sell your data basically to improve the stance you are with other companies, to understand user better, to maybe give data to the government because they request to do so. I mean, I think the US has been pretty vocal about this, talking about Palantir or Google in that sense. So why Thaura doesn't do it is basically because we already have a trained model. GLM 4.5 Air has already been trained via a process called reinforcement learning. And what they basically did, and one of the reports indicated that, they went to DeepSeek, which is a huge model, much smarter than GLM 4.5 Air, and the model began to ask DeepSeek questions. DeepSeek began to ask the model questions, and the model began to answer. And DeepSeek began to validate the output of the smaller GLM 4.5 Air model. And based on DeepSeek validating the GLM 4.5 Air model's answer, it became incredibly smarter and more smart. And until it reached a point where they just cut training off and released it to the public. And the reason why we don't have to use any training data to improve our model is because we already accept that, okay, it already covers 95% of all usage since it's effective for coding, it's effective for writing, it's effective for visualization. But the only thing that we need to do is we need to fine tune it in the sense of we need to make it unbiased, since Chinese training data and has, I think, a reputation of obviously being biased. So how we handle this or how we can create a model that is unbiased or follows a specific ethical framework without using trained data is by hard coding it, basically. We have a specific ethical framework that says, okay, please, before you respond via a preprocessor, understand who is the oppressor and who is the oppressed, who is making money, who is losing money, who is being manipulated, does this company has a specific background, and et cetera, and the list goes on. It's a specific ethical framework that it's a specific preprocessor that is being validated via a ethical framework that before it responds, validates it basically. And so with that said, we don't really need any data to make the model better, but what we wish for is for everybody to provide feedback so we can improve this ethical framework as much as possible. I think also like one thing to mention to everybody is that we're by no means prophets or in that sense. I mean, we can only do whatever is in our power. So we believe in specific ethics, and this list might improve and might decline. We are from our background Muslim, so we try to follow the principles of Islam that we have learned over our childhood to improve this ethical framework. But we have gathered so much amazing feedback from users that have improved this ethical framework by so much. And this is just maybe shout out to everybody that did this, and maybe also encouragement for everybody that wants to provide feedback to actually do it, because this is the actual way on how to make Thaura a better platform.
Thank you. Yeah, so you explained that really well as well. So you're not collecting user data is not necessary. You have other mechanisms of making sure your product is safe. And then you're also relying on people like us, users, everyday users, to provide feedback, which if you've used it before, it's really easy. To provide feedback, the bubble pops up while you're using it once you get a response. So you guys can, I'm sure you guys use that information all the time. One thing I also wanted to ask about though is like, you have this really focused approach on how you're going to do this, what kind of information you're going to use to build it. But speaking from like a business perspective and like sustaining this and having it grow, you've also mentioned that you're not accepting investor money. This is a completely bootstrap project right now. You are not accepting big contracts like military contracts or something like that, which can be a huge, obviously, source of income for companies. So how are you guys planning on sustaining this financially and having it also grow at the same time with those same safety measures and things in the long term?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, our goal is definitely not to become the next big startup. This was not our initiative. This is not our intention. Our intention, first and foremost, is to provide this alternative. And to provide this alternative, you really gotta keep that integrity. And bringing in shareholders that might influence your mission is definitely not holding your integrity. I mean, also considering that we're pretty new, it is our first startup and we do not have the experience. We've heard about angel investors, that there's some investors that genuinely want to support this mission. But of course, they do want to get something back. It's all something new for us. For us right now, it's really about maintaining something ethical, and having a third party influence this is not really good. So we've been growing nice and steady, and it's been pretty good. We talked about data collection right now. There is a reason why these big tech companies, they collect this type of data. It's not because the product is for free. It's because they're actually gaining something out of it. They're gaining our data, our conversations, our thoughts, our plans. So basically, we are the product. And in our case, we don't do this. We do monetize this platform. So we have a pro plan, which we are mostly like 90% of our income comes from this pro plan, which is, so the free plan limits the conversation to 10 messages every 5 hours. And after that, you need to upgrade to the pro plan. And this is basically where we've been sustaining ourselves currently. It's been good. It can definitely scale faster and better, especially with funding, but nicely and steadily, like we'd rather grow like this than fast, but in a way that would compromise our values.
There's another way to do this, so you've chosen this path. And I would Said, did you want to
Yeah,
say something?
yeah.
Okay.
I would just want to say, I think I want to emphasize how much we care about being transparent.
Yeah.
This project, like I mentioned, open source a couple of times earlier.
Yeah.
Thaura will be open sourced, 100%. There will come a time where Thaura will be open sourced. Right now, it is not the time, since I'm the only developer. And if bad actors identify vulnerabilities in the code base, it might hurt all of the users that try to use AI with a clear conscience. So once the team grows bigger, we want to open source it. But also, this is, I think, just to show the transparency behind it. Also, like to answer your question on how we're planning to scale it. So right now, at this moment, as we speak, with the current income that we're making, we have around 8,000 total users, and we're making about like 5% of them became pro users. And right now, as we speak, we're able to scale Thaura to around 100,000 users. We estimate that this 5% number might drop down to 4 or maybe 4.5 or whatever. But as long as we keep like a specific like a type of number in that sense of this number at the same rate as our users go up, we'll be able to scale this to hopefully like to a number beyond imagine. So we're absolutely able to scale this without funding. We had 8 investor opportunities for now, until now, like since we started, and we have declined all of them. And it's going to stay this way. Thaura will be a free AI. And I think later we're going to talk about something called decentralization, but I will keep this for later.
Okay. I wanted to ask, so given that you're choosing to take this direction, and it's going to be, if I don't want to say slow and steady isn't necessarily a bad thing. Let me just say that. It's like you're not going to have this like exponential boom and bust necessarily that we're seeing with other tech companies, and that we're seeing now in the world with these tech companies grow super quickly in the first few years, and it's like unprecedented growth. And you're saying that like we're choosing to prioritize A, B, and C, and as a result, our growth is going to look a little bit different, but it's still sustainable, it's still manageable, and we plan on making this a free AI in the future, so, or forever. So given that, are there any like technical considerations that you've made as developers where you've prioritized ethics over convenience, where you feel like, I wish we could do this right now, but we can't, or like in the future, we want to implement this once we grow a little bit and have the ability to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the main thing that we're waiting right now, for, we have 2 servers. One is based in the US, one is based in Europe. We would like both of the servers to be based in Europe, but one only right now is only based in the US, since in the US they have one server that allows us to run the GLM 4.5 error model, still in a GDPR compliant way, but it's still in the US, and it's much cheaper there, and we do not have the financial resources to be able to have our own server here in Europe. So this is like something we cut down on. It's still like something like we're comfortable with, we're happy about, since it's still GDPR compliant, still something we control. But we absolutely would like to have them here. And by the way, we would also like not to rent any servers at all. I think the most optimal way is to have our own servers, period, not relying on anybody. Right now, we can say with big comfort that we don't rely on any, like 0 big tech alternatives. We have no ties to Amazon, no ties to Google, no ties to Microsoft, no ties to NVIDIA, no ties to any of the big tech platforms. And also considering that
we use a much smaller model. We could also just use DeepSeek, an open source model that is bigger and better than GLM 4.5 here.
Yeah. Also, what I wanted to say is Thaura has in its software itself no third-party ties. So everything from the database to Redis to
I think you're getting into the idea of digital sovereignty, which I want, if you want to expand on that a little bit and like kind of what that means in this context and how that is important to your mission. Do you want to talk a little bit about that as well, like the idea of digital sovereignty in this space?
What do you mean exactly?
Like you're talking about how you're not at all associated with other big tech companies, right?
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form. So like, how is it you're saying it is possible to maintain that? We hear so it's like at one point or another, startup you get started and then you realize you do need this, whether it's because of a resource, a technological resource, a financial resource. You end up taking investor money. You're saying you're not doing that. And the idea that you are explaining is essentially you want to be digitally sovereign. Like this wants to be, you want this to be its own thing. So can you talk about, yeah.
Absolutely. So I think maybe to all of my tech nerds out there, I'm going to talk about decentralization a little bit. So decentralization is basically having AI that is not dependent from anybody. That means you don't even have to trust Thaura to run your AI, because there are many, many nodes out there. So for a lot of people that like to visit the dark web, I know you guys are out there, but for those people, normally they use something called Tor. And Tor is super secure because it's decentralized. Everybody can run like one instance in his room, for example. And right now, decentralized AI uses something. There are many ways to do this, but right now it's still in the research phase. And the goal with Thaura is hopefully once it becomes more sustainable, like more sustained, that we can hire a bigger research team, that we work on two things. One is decentralization, because that might end up to be the future of AI, or local AI. And this is also one of the reasons why we chose such a small model. It didn't. GLM 4.5 is also GLM 4.5 Air has also a bigger brother called GLM 4.5, which is around 400 billion parameters, which should give you like better outputs. But we could run this, but we don't run this because we believe that we should focus on running smaller models. Smaller models have the potential to run on your device one day, even on your mobile phone. Like I think Google right now has some sort of Gemini version running on their phone. It's still like being sent, all of the data is still being sent to Google, but essentially there is definitely a way to have a high performance AI model running on edge on your device and literally covering not just 95% of your usage, but maybe hopefully one day 99%, or who knows, maybe even more. So what that said is we want to be independent, like we want to go the independent route as far as possible. So right now, for us, the most logical way is to be completely independent from big tech. Though other users have to be dependent from us. But this is the next mission. This is the next path that we want to take. We want to create a path, sort of like a future where people don't even have to be dependent from us. And this is what we believe is digital sovereignty.
Yeah, and until we reach that, it's super important to keep in mind that we can all, like all of us, we can only play with the cards that we're dealt. So we cannot find something that is completely untangled from big tech for now. Since we are so small, since big tech has done a good job of keeping us all in their infrastructure. And I mean, it's one step to let loose of this grip, looking at how for example, ChatGPT works. They might still try to water down on questions, for example. But with time, once they have this grip on us, like complete grip on us, there is no escape. There is no more alternatives. Then they can show their real face. So one step is providing alternatives that fight back, even though it's not perfect. It cannot never be perfect. And why I'm saying this is especially because after we've launched with Tech for Palestine, I was so excited for the comments. Like I went to the comments, I thought, okay, people, especially those from this community, finally an alternative. Yeah, we're fighting back. But was more, which I completely understand, but it was more but you're not considering this. But this company has ties to this company, who has ties to this company. And this is not the mindset. I mean, I appreciate these comments, but we have to think realistically. And until we achieve this utopian dream of being completely decentralized, and even then I can imagine that people don't want to have anything on their device locally and still want something hosted. It is better to provide something that's better than what's out there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because we need to be comfortable living in contradiction a little bit. I think whether that's where you work and who you're employed by, the country you live in, I mean, big things like that, and then little things like even having an iPhone now is like you can't escape it's in your phone. like I cannot control that, right? Or I can to a certain extent, but I have to be comfortable living with the contradiction of I have some attachment to this big tech that has kind of infiltrated our lives in many different ways, but I can still take little steps like downloading the Thaura app when it's available on iOS. And I can open a different browser, and it's like small steps that lead to bigger things. And I think that's kind of what you're saying here, which is super important for all of us to remember, that we're not providing a complete perfect solution, but it's something that gives you an alternative option, and you're making a choice. And that's the most important thing here as well, is that we are still able to make choices. We can choose differently. It has not completely taken over our options. And that's really important to remember. I want to ask both of you a little bit more about this experience of building this. I mean, it requires like a deep, I think, sense of self-belief, but also like confidence maybe in your approach and your idea and yourselves. I think it's a pretty big deal to put something like this out there and put everything you have into it. So I definitely give you guys a lot of credit for that. And I want to understand, like, is this self-belief, is this confidence, is this approach something that you guys were like raised with, and like you think it's like been raised with you, and you were like maybe even born with it, or is this something that you've like acquired through your life experiences and everything that's brought you here today?
Well, I would say we were pretty bold since forever.
Yeah.
But honestly, besides being confident in what we do and trying things out, it was more of a thing that we wanted and we needed. We just got, like, we get the real ick using big tech technology, knowing that they're tracking everything. So we even use a de-Googled phone, so that everything is sandboxed and we can cut off the camera and microphone, because of course we cannot like lose ourselves in this rabbit hole, but we just don't like big tech's surveillance systems. So we figured, okay, if we need it, there are probably also other people who need it, and we do know that other people need it. And looking at the world right now, I think there was never a time where alternatives have been so important as now, because there's such a big wave of boycotting. Boycotting is a trend. And we realized that, okay, good, boycott is the first part, is not using the product, but the second part is migrating to another. And honestly, we were just so confident in this idea, not just in our skills or the situation, the idea that currently people need this. We just believed in it so much that we use it for ourselves. We use it for our auntie again, and we use it for our whole family and friends. So I feel like now it's still the same thing. So people are still a bit blind, and they don't really think that this will have an impact. But with time, seeing how other people migrate, it will definitely do have an impact.
Are there any like challenges, any personal sacrifices that you're making to accomplish this? Maybe something that's happened recently, or something that's more like long term that you deal with, challenge wise, personal sacrifice?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we used to earn pretty good in our last job, and we like I think what I want to say, my goal was always like to have a farm and to just raise a family on a ranch, and that's it. I never wanted to accomplish more. And having this tech job, I think it got me closer to this as ever possible.
Yeah.
And quitting this tech job, this well-paid tech job, and starting something which essentially is just a competitor to the biggest company in the world.
Right.
It's pretty. I mean, you got to be pretty bold to do this. I'm not saying like we were confident that it's going to work or not, but we just needed this to work. We needed this 0.01% probability for it to even have a chance. Because if we wouldn't have done it, I mean, it would be essentially a 0% chance.
Yeah.
So we definitely took some sacrifice. I mean, it was long hours, like consistently working 13, 12-hour days, cutting down on social life, quitting our job again, like which could have like brought us closer to our dream. Yeah, it's absolutely huge thing. But also shout out to Germany. I mean, they haven't been, especially like for the past few years, not very popular with their political belief system. I mean, I think I think there are a couple of people who have heard that they have invited like 4 donkeys from Palestine, except of accepting the children into the country. And they also had like recently a meeting with Netanyahu and such. So, and also like living in Germany, we're paying 50% taxes for them being the second biggest weapon exporter to Israel. I think also in the world. We definitely like don't support everything that they do, but one thing that they did very well is that they're a socialist country. I mean, you pay 50% taxes, but if you don't have a job, they will definitely cover you. So in that sense, we're very fortunate to have been raised basically in our late childhood here in Germany, and yeah, I mean, it was some sacrifice, but we were really in a fortunate situation to be able to have done this.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not in a position to judge anyone from the country they're from or living in. So that, thank you for the well-rounded answer, though. That makes a lot of sense. I also want to talk a little bit about your experience working with Tech for Palestine. So I explained a little bit earlier when we started that we are kind of a community of communities at this point, and there's different ways people can be involved and join us, and whether you're a volunteer or you're a founder or you want to be a staff member or you are just an observer at this point. You guys joined as founders of Thaura, and can you tell us a little bit about what community, how has that helped shape your guys' journey? How has it been supportive? What has your experience been like being a part of a broader tech community like this?
Tech for Palestine wasn't just, or isn't just a nice to have. It is definitely, and it was definitely needed. It was essential for us. I mean, without Tech for Palestine, we wouldn't have made it really, because before Tech for Palestine, whenever I've seen the visitors, it was only me and my brother. Nobody used to join us. And this was something that really took a toll on us, especially like building this on our own with our family. We knew that there are people like us, like-minded people, but we never really saw them, and we never really reached them. And Tech for Palestine really was this boost. It was this the plug to this community. I remember when I was really that desperate, I was just writing in keywords on TikTok to find like people who are like-minded, and I wrote Tech and Palestine. And then I've seen a video of the founder, Paul Bigger, who, like, as if he was talking to us, said, hey, to all the startups that are working toward a free Palestine, contact us. We are an incubator. We give you reach. And honestly, it was super important, because now when people are saying that we are making waves, it's not really because of our marketing. It's more of a collective effort with all the people who are talking about us, who are showing us the support, whether it be only like spreading the word, but as well like shaping the product. We also now have a Discord community, and there are so many volunteers just helping out, giving their opinion, and also like seeing potential future team members in Thaura. And I'm really saying this genuinely and truly as appreciation for Tech for Palestine, because they got us they gave us this reach to this community of like-minded people.
Also big, like, I know you already said it, but big shout out to Paul Bigger. I mean, he essentially founded a $1 billion company and is out there. This guy doesn't give a about anything. He stands for his mission, and he is very, very much vocal about this. And it is just so humbling and amazing to see. I mean, hopefully Thaura will grow to a point where we can also say that we are able to be so vocal about this topic while having such a big background behind us.
Amazing. Before we sort of close up, I want to also give you guys a second to say your own piece, but I also was curious personally, what is it like working as brothers? I mean, it sounds like you guys have been together in your phases of life side by side. So now you've decided to start this together. So what is the experience like as brothers, but now founders? I'm sure, people say like, don't mix business and family and all these things, but something seems to be working. So do you guys want to share a little bit about what that's like working with your sibling?
I'm curious to know what you got.
I mean,
we were just arguing this morning, man.
So the thing is, I'm not saying it's a 5-star experience, but what I'm saying is he is my brother, and I think generally we as humans should adapt the mindset that really sometimes the individual arguments don't really mean anything, and we need to keep the big picture. And at the end of the day, he is my brother, and I will stand behind him, whatever it takes. And we argue a lot. Like for those people that sometimes see see features pop up in Thora for 5 minutes and then disappear again. Now I think things begin to become a little bit clearer. It's definitely not a 5-star experience, but we are brothers, and we're going to stick together whatever it takes. And I think having this mindset will set us up for good.
Yeah, it's really a lot of understanding and not taking things personal. I mean, most of the things we argue about now aren't really like individual stuff. It's more about Thaura. Hey, we should do this. No, we should do that. And nobody has any type of like reason besides actually making Thaura better. So you do have to understand, not take stuff personal. There's a lot of fighting. I'm not saying we figured it out. There's a lot of fighting, but you got to be resilient in this. And since we've been fighting since young ages and we're pretty competitive, it's something we're used to, and we're not taking it personal. I hope.
That's awesome. Yeah. So Saeed said it's not a 5 out of 5. So Hani, would you say it's like maybe like
yeah.
Okay, that's fair. That was a good response. That's really nice to hear. It's definitely going to be challenging, but I mean, you guys sound like you're on the same page and you're understanding that, like, yeah, we're going to fight, but there's obviously a strong foundation happening here that's keeping this moving forward. Before we get into some questions, by the way, if anyone who's watching, you guys can put your questions in the chat. We have some time to get to them. So please feel free to do that if you guys have any questions you want to ask. I did want to give you both a moment, though, to speak to everyone who's here today, let them know any message you have, any personal ask that you have, and let us know what you guys are thinking, if any requests from the community, maybe share like a message that you have with us. If each of you want to do that, please go ahead.
Yeah. So what I encourage, I appreciate the fact that a lot of people that have joined the Zoom meeting today are in a way or another very ethically minded. So I really encourage everybody to understand that there is a big community out there that really has grown sick and tired of the bullshit that Israel and the US has known. We're saying big tech, obviously, but big tech usually means Israel and the US.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that there is definitely an alternative world out there where we don't have to depend on them. History has been changed in the past. It will change again. And also for those people that are thinking about their jobs and starting something on their own in that category per se, it is definitely possible. So right now we are at a point where we can live off the income of Thora, alhamdulillah, and we know so many people that have started projects and are also able to do the same. There is a huge community that supports you. We support you. Tech for Palestine supports you. And yeah, I think we really need to remain hopeful, because if the hope dies, everything dies with it.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Hani, did you want to also share anything?
No, that was pretty good. I think I'll leave it at that.
Okay. I did have a question about, I was reading something, I think I read a comment somewhere about, so I know this is available on Android. Do you guys have any update on when it'll be available for?
Okay, so listen, let me tell you one thing. So with iOS, I would personally not love anything more than deployed on iOS, since especially like in the US, the majority of people do own an iOS. This is just plain fact. So the problem is with iOS is that Google doesn't have. So basically, Android doesn't always mean Google. I run Android on my phone and it's the Google. So you have opportunities to deploy apps and not give Android a piece of the pie. So With that said, we are an ethical product, and we understand that Apple is part of big tech and also haven't been famous for making the best decisions out there in an ethical sense. In that sense, though, they do want to take 30% of our revenue. So if the Pro plan is around $10, you guys would have to pay Apple essentially 30% of that. Now, we can make like a community survey, and if the majority of people say, we don't care about this, this is just a fact we have to live with, we can do this. We're still like in the process of figure things out, like with the community. Maybe this is actually like also a good opportunity to ask, like for those people that have an ISL, do you guys want to pay 30% to Apple? I mean, it's not like a clear thing to me. Like it's understandable. Like we said, we need to sometimes live with contradictions. So this is the reason. There is no other reason.
That makes sense. I don't see anybody asking any more questions. I'm going to take that as we discussed everything in great detail, and everyone is kind of, oh wait, I do see someone here. Hold on. Okay. So somebody who is actually in Germany would like to know how they can get in touch with, I'm assuming, people in this movement, but also with you guys personally. I know you guys recently just mentioned you have a Discord. So do you want to plug that here and let us know like how you guys and why you guys are running your own Discord and what you're hoping to get out of that and how people can join?
Yeah, I mean, the way we entered Tech for Palestine was initially through their Discord. And I think this is the first step, even before getting into our Discord, because there's just so many like-minded people and also similar projects, like Thaura. We joined the T4P Discord about 2 months ago, and we've grown just so much through it. So definitely, firstly, go in that. And afterwards, like Said mentioned, feedback is literally oxygen for this project. So that's why we have our Discord. And I don't think we have it on our homepage right now, but I think we'll just do it today. And whoever just wants to join and also contact us, it's the best way to do so.
Okay.
Also, like people can contact us under Thaura.ai/contact.
Okay. And before we had started, you had mentioned that you were putting together an FAQ and one other thing that you wanted to mention here as well.
Oh yeah. So we talked a little bit about our story. Like if you go just to Thaura.ai and basically click on the homepage, or go to Thaura.ai/story or Thaura.ai/about. No, Thaura.ai/FAQ and Thaura.ai/story. You'll find our story and a lot of frequently asked questions that the community has asked that we have answered in great detail. And also feel free to contact us for further questions if you want them answered.
Okay, awesome. Before we wrap up here, I just want to give a closing message of that we have learned a lot today from both of you. So thank you so much for joining us and speaking to us in great detail about Thaura, about your backgrounds, and about Tech for Palestine, and speaking about it so kindly. I think what you guys are doing is amazing, obviously, and excited to see how this continues to grow. I was using Thaura as like prep for this call as well, so I got a good idea of like how it works and its responses and everything. And I can honestly say it's a wonderful product. And I think what this has also shown us is that like each of us, even just having this conversation, you guys creating this product, us using it, is small steps that we all can take in changing the way that the world works and the way that we work and the way that we interact with tech products and what our digital future looks like. So thank you to everyone for joining today. Use Thaura, download the app if you're able to, use it on a browser. Join the Pro membership if you can, if you're able to. And then obviously you can contact Hani and Said in the ways that they've mentioned if you want to give product feedback or join the Discord community. And also for Tech for Palestine, if you'd like to learn more about what we do, you can visit the Tech for Palestine website. We also have our own Discord. We're active on social media. We'll host these webinars in the upcoming year as well. So please stay connected. And thank you guys for being here. We'll end it here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Until next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.